All right, so you're thinking about the UK, huh? Maybe it's Oxford or Cambridge calling your name or a chance to work in a bustling London startup. Yeah, taking that leap across the pond is a big move, and you know what? Chances are you've stumbled across this thing called the UKV IELTS. Well, instead of just checking it off as another task on that to-do list, think of this as your deep dive, your guide to really get what it's all about and how to nail it. This is about more than just a test. It's about opening the door to your UK dreams.
You got it. It's easy to see. It's just a hoop to jump through. But the UKV IELTS, it's really there to make sure you've got the communication skills to actually thrive in this new place you're going to. So the next little while, we're going to break down what makes it different, why it's so important for your visa, and give you some solid strategies to feel good when test day rolls around. No more confusion, just clear steps forward.
Love that. All right, let's cut to the chase. What exactly is this UKV IELTS? When you see those letters, what should pop into your head?
Okay, so UKV IELTS, it stands for International English Language Testing System. But here's the thing, it's a specific version of IELTS, and it's the one that's been given the thumbs up by UK Visas and Immigration, or UK IELTS for short. Now, if you're aiming to work, study, or set up shop in the UK, and you're not from a country where English is the main language, this is the test you're going to need. Think of it as your official language passport recognized by the UK government. It tells them you're good to go when it comes to English.
So basically, the UK is saying, show us you can talk the talk. Now, tons of people know about the regular IELTS. What's the big difference here so we don't accidentally take the wrong test?
Super important question. The format of both UK IELTS and standard IELTS, it's pretty much the same. You're going to have your listening, reading, writing, and speaking sections. But the core difference, it's all about why they exist and who accepts them. Standard IELTS, that's your global player. It's recognized for university admissions all over the world. And yeah, that includes universities in the UK. It's good for immigration to places like Australia, Canada, New Zealand. Think of it as your all-purpose language visa.
So the regular one is like a general language pass.
You got it. Now, UK IELTS, this one's the specialist. It's the one you absolutely need when you're applying for pretty much any UK visa. We're talking Tier 4 student visas for those hitting the books work permits to get you in the job market, and even those settlement visas. If you're thinking long-term, UK life, this is where things get tricky. If you take standard IELTS when you needed the UKVI version, you're looking at big delays, or even worse, your application could be tossed out. Not a fun situation.
Nightmare. So for all of you out there with the UK in your sights, why is this UK IELTS a non-negotiable? What makes it so important?
It boils down to this. It's a requirement straight from UKI. It's their gold standard for English skills, and they want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Think of it as a quality check. Now, if you don't hit that magic UK IELTS score for your specific visa, you're likely looking at delays, or in a worst-case scenario, your application could be rejected. It's all about proving you can handle life in the UK, academically, professionally, and just day-to-day.
More than just checking a box right. It's showing you're ready to jump in and be a part of things. So let's say you're in, you need this UKVI IELTS thing. Where do you even begin?
First things first, you got to know the battlefield. Get familiar with the test format. We've touched on it a bit, but here's the breakdown. You've got listening, where you'll tune in to 30 minutes of audio and answer questions. Then there's reading a whole hour to test how well you understand written texts. Writing's also an hour with 2 tasks, one of them being an essay. And lastly, speaking. That's where you'll chat one-on-one with an examiner for about 11 to 14 minutes. Get to know the structure really well, and you can create a study plan that plays to your strengths and tackles those areas where you might need a little extra help.
Knowing what to expect, that's half the battle, right? So you know what's coming. What tools should you grab to get ready?
Good news is there's a mountain of resources out there. Definitely hit up the official IELTS website and look for stuff specifically labeled as UKV IELTS Prep. You'll find practice tests, study guides, and even forums where you can connect with others who are in the same boat. Something else to consider seriously. Think about whether an IELTS prep course would be a good fit for you. These courses, they often have experts who can guide you structured lessons and really helpful feedback to keep you on track. That investment can be a game changer.
Expert guidance can make a huge difference. All right, let's talk numbers, the scores you need. What should we be aiming for?
All right, buckle up because this is where it gets specific. The minimum score you need on that UKV IELTS isn't the same for every visa. For example, let's say you're going for a Tier 4 student visa for a bachelor's or master's degree. You'll likely need a total band score of 6.0 to 7.0. And within that, you'll often need at least a 5.5 or 6.0 on each of the 4 parts listening, reading, writing, and speaking. But if you're looking at foundation programs or entry-level courses, the bar might be a bit lower, maybe around the 4.0 to 5.5 range.
So, big difference depending on what you're studying. What about those going for work visas?
For those aiming for work visas, the language requirements, they tend to be a bit higher. You're often looking at an overall score of 6.5 or even 7.0 again, with those minimum scores for each section. Here's the key takeaway. Don't just go with general info. Go straight to the source. Check the UKVI website or the website of the school you're applying to and make sure you know the exact score you need. No assumptions.
Got it. So, tailor your target to your goal makes sense. Now, is it enough to just scrape by with the minimum, or should we be aiming a bit higher?
While hitting that minimum is obviously a must, there are some serious perks to aiming higher if you can. For starters, sometimes exceeding that minimum can smooth things out and maybe even speed up your visa application. But bigger picture, having a really solid grasp of English, it's going to make your whole experience in the UK so much better. Think about it. Stronger communication makes your studies, your work life, even just everyday stuff a whole lot easier. It sets you up for success. We've even seen that those who score just a little bit higher than the minimum, they tend to have a much smoother transition into UK life.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just about getting in, it's about thriving once you're there. Okay, we know what you're shooting for now. How do we actually ace this exam? What are some tips that actually work?
Let's get practical. First off, make a conscious effort to surround yourself with English every single day. Listen to podcasts, watch UK TV shows or movies, and this is huge. Talk to people. Find native English speakers or even other folks prepping for IELTS and just chat. The more you speak, the better you'll get and the more confident you'll feel come test day.
Immersion? Yeah, that sounds like a good way to get comfy with the language. What else should we be doing?
All right, dive into those IELTS test strategies. You got to know how to use your time wisely in each section. Practice different types of questions you'll see in the listening, reading, and writing parts. Grabbing some past IELTS papers, especially those specifically for UKVI, those are gold. They give you a feel for the format and help you spot areas where you might need some extra practice.
So basically, practice like it's game day. Now, what about the kind of English we should be using? Anything specific?
You know it. Since this UKVI IELTS is your ticket to the UK, it makes sense to focus on British English. Get familiar with the vocabulary idioms, how they structure their sentences, even get used to that British accent. While the test is checking your overall English skills, being in tune with the British way of speaking, it shows you're ready to blend in.
Maybe swap those American sitcoms for some British dramas for a while. Good tip. Now let's talk about the speaking test. That one can make people nervous.
Oh yeah, it can. One thing that really works is to find a partner and practice speaking. Pretend it's the real deal. Ask each other potential IELTS speaking questions and get used to explaining your ideas clearly and smoothly, even when you're under a bit of pressure. Lots of online platforms and language groups out there to find someone to practice with, and don't be shy about recording yourself. Listening back can help you catch those ums and ahs.
Good call. We mentioned time management for the written parts. Anything else to highlight there?
Can't stress this enough. Time management is everything. No matter what section you're on, practice with a timer. You need to have a feel for how much time you've got for each question or task so you can keep a good pace on test day and not run out of time.
Solid advice. Now the writing section. Any tips for crafting those essays and responses?
You bet. Find someone to give you feedback on your writing practice. Could be teachers, tutors, language partners, even online services. Having another set of eyes on your work, it's priceless. It helps you spot those grammar mistakes, make your writing clear and concise, and make sure you're actually answering the question. And pay attention to how they grade the writing section. They're looking at things like task achievement, how well it flows vocabulary and grammar.
Getting feedback can really take your writing to the next level. Now, test day jitters. How do we stay calm and perform at our best?
Test anxiety, it's totally normal. On exam day, make sure you get a good night's sleep, have a decent meal, and get to the test center early. If you start feeling overwhelmed during the test, just take a few deep breaths and refocus. You need to be calm and focused to remember everything you've learned and do your best. You put in the work. Trust yourself.
Stay cool and trust the process. Now things change sometimes. Anything about updates or new guidelines for 2025 that we should be aware of?
Always good to stay in the loop. Regularly check the UK IELTS website and the sites of those official test centers. They'll post any changes to the test format scoring or rules for 2025. Big changes, they usually announce those ahead of time, but staying updated means you're always in the know.
Staying informed is key no matter what you're applying for. Now let's talk about some common questions and potential snags people hit with the UK IELTS.
One of the biggest questions is about taking it online. Here's the deal. Unlike the regular IELTS in some places, UK IELTS, you got to do it in person at an approved test center. No online testing for UK visas. So make double, triple sure you're booking with a legit place that's authorized to give the UK IELTS.
So no comfy pajamas for this one. Got it. What about results? How long does it take to get those?
Typically, you'll get those UK IELTS results within 13 days of taking the test. But here's a pro tip. Build in some buffer time when you're planning your visa application. Sometimes those processing times can be a bit unpredictable. Don't wait till the last minute to book your test.
Planning ahead seems to be a recurring theme here. Important stuff. What are some common mistakes that can trip people up with their UKV IELTS and their visa applications?
One of the biggest and most painful ones is booking the standard IELTS by mistake instead of the UKV version. As we talked about, these are two different tests for UK visas. If you take the wrong one, chances are your application is going to get bounced back or seriously delayed. Double check, triple check that you're signing up for UKV IELTS.
Ouch, yeah, that could be a real heartbreaker. Anything else on the admin side to watch out for?
Absolutely. Be super careful about the test date and location. Some folks get confused about which test centers are actually allowed to give the UKV IELTS. Go to the official channels and book with a center that's clearly listed as approved by UKV. If you go with an unauthorized center, your results might not be valid.
Okay, stick to the official places. What about how people do on the test itself? Any common reasons folks don't get the scores they need?
A big one is not hitting that minimum score in even just one of the four sections: listening, reading, writing, speaking. You might have a great overall score, but if you dip below that minimum in even one area, it can hold things up or even get your visa application rejected. You got to be prepared for all four sections equally.
Balanced preparation is key. Now, what about the practical stuff on test day, like ID?
Crucial point. You have to bring the right and valid ID, usually the same passport you use for your visa application. No ID or the wrong ID, they can cancel your test right then and there, and you might not get a refund.
Passport is king on test day. We touched on speaking test anxiety earlier. Is that a big enough issue to mention again in terms of potential problems?
Absolutely. The fact that you're talking to a real person for the speaking test, it can throw people off. If you haven't practiced enough speaking in English, those nerves can take over and you might freeze up. And that lack of confidence, it can definitely hurt your fluency and your overall score. The best antidote is practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, the more you do it, the less scary it gets. Last question. Is there a noticeable difference in how long it takes to get UK IELTS results compared to the regular IELTS?
Officially, the time frame's about the same, around 13 days. But some folks have said that UK IELTS results can sometimes take a little longer to process. Just another reason to book your test well ahead of your visa deadlines. Less stress that way.
Be prepared, plan ahead seems to be the motto here. Now, this is real life we're talking about. People go through this all the time. Any examples of people who've successfully navigated this whole UK IELTS thing?
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's talk about Agaroff. He was set on getting his master's degree at a top UK uni, but he was a little overwhelmed by this whole UK IELTS requirement. He wasn't totally sure how it was different from the regular IELTS. So what did he do? He dug in, got informed, and signed up for a prep course that gave him personalized feedback that really helped him build confidence in those skills he needed. He put in the work, especially on his speaking fluency, and guess what? He got the score he needed and landed a spot at his dream uni.
That's what I'm talking about. Preparation pays off. What about someone looking to work in the UK?
Pry is a great example. She had a job offer lined up in her field in the UK, but she knew she had to nail that UKVI IELTS to get her work visa. At first it felt like a lot, especially juggling job hunting and test prep, but she got smart about it. She used online resources, practiced tests, and really focused on polishing her academic writing skills because she knew that was a big part of the exam. Priya put in the work, figured out the exact score she needed for her visa, and bam, she passed that UK IELTS, and now she's killing it in her new job in the UK.
Another win for understanding those specific requirements. Got one more example to drive it home.
Let's talk about Ravi. He always wanted to study in the UK, but the whole visa thing felt like a maze, especially the UKV IELTS. But Ravi, he went straight to the source. He found clear step-by-step instructions on the official UKV website and used those free practice materials online to get familiar with the test. He even connected with other students online to practice his speaking. That proactive approach and all that practice across all four sections, it paid off. He got the score he needed, and now he's settled in and loving his studies in the UK. These stories show that while the UKV IELTS takes work, it's totally doable. You just got to understand it and put in the effort.
Love those real-life stories. All right, let's sum it all up for our listeners. What are the big things to remember about the UKV IELTS?
First off, remember UKVI IELTS is the English test you need for most UK visa applications. Second, knowing the test inside and out and putting in the time to practice, that's what's going to get you that score. Third, never guess about the scores you need. Look up the exact requirements for your specific visa. And last but not least, avoid those common mistakes, like picking the wrong test booking at a sketchy test center, or forgetting your ID on test day.
So if you're serious about making that move to the UK, whether it's for school or work, remember the UKVI IELTS is that key to unlocking your dreams.
Couldn't agree more. Get started today. Do your homework on those visa requirements and start prepping as soon as you can.
And one final thought to leave you with. Yes, the UKVI IELTS is a requirement, but it's also a huge opportunity. It's your chance to show that you're ready to succeed in the UK, in your studies, your career, and in life. You've got this. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.